Good evening, and welcome to the Positional Sports Talk Show Post, live streaming on Facebook Live, Twitch, and our Positional Sports Talk Show YouTube channel. We are a sports talk show made for the fans, from the perspective of fans, presented by lifelong sports fans. We will provide our opinions and positions on the hottest topics in sports. My name is Big Reg, and I'm joined this evening by my partner in crime. How are you this evening, J3?
What's up, man? How y'all doing? Feeling great. Let's get it in.
We also got Professor J in the building. How you doing this evening, Professor?
I'm blessed. Praise the Lord, everybody. Let's have a great show.
We will be joined a little bit later by our man Ed. He'll be getting in once he can fit in. And we got back in the building our special contributor. We got Sense in the building. How you doing, Sense? What's going on, brother?
Feeling good. Feeling great. What's up, everybody? Let's go.
All right. This evening, we will discuss the NBA Finals, Week 4 of the NFL, college football update, Major League Playoff update, post takes, plus other topics that caught our attention, and our final post of the evening. We appreciate you tuning in, so sit back, relax, and enjoy Post on the Positional Sports Talk Show. All right, fellas, Tuesday, I think most of us said that there would be a 4-0 sweep and that the Lakers would take out these Miami Heat. After injuries, it looked like the Miami Heat would definitely fold. But then something funny happened in Game 3.
Jimmy effing Buckets.
You got that right.
That's what I was saying. Jimmy effing Buckets. Talk about determination. Wow.
Yeah, I'll be the first to say I was wrong because the way they looked at the game too, I thought they would definitely, getting swept. And then without Adebayo and Dragic, I thought they were done. So I stand corrected.
I think that goes to prove that no matter how much a team may be overmatched, when you play with sheer will, energy, and effort, you can get a game. I think when we were doing the predictions, somebody might have mentioned that I thought the Heat might get 2 just because of the determination of that organization and that they weren't just going to lay down for the Lakers. But now looking at it, the way LeBron looked after he walked off the court after the end of Game 3, I'm thinking it might be a gentleman's sweep again. I think they'll sweep all of their series in the playoffs 4-1 and hang another banner in La La Land. What y'all think?
Yeah, we had said gentlemen's sweep from the beginning when we gave our predictions, but like I said, how they looked at Game 2, I changed to a clean sweep. So, I'll go back to the original gentleman's sweep. I think that LeBron gets things on track tonight, hopefully, because Adebayo will be playing tonight. And if your man AD can stay out of foul trouble, I think they can pull it off.
Well, I think AD had the issue that I was concerned with and that we were texting back and forth on the game Sunday. I just had a feeling there was going to be a letdown by the Lakers. I didn't know by who. I didn't think AD in his first NBA Finals would be the one who did it. But AD didn't show up till like the fourth quarter. And by that time, it was too late. Add on the foul trouble, and it was like, damn. But what that does do, it leaves the door open for LeBron to possibly sneak in and get another Finals MVP. Because going into Game 3, AD was declared MVP of the series.
Yeah, I certainly agree with that. I think that AD would have been on track to be Finals MVP. But I think LeBron opened that door for him, and now he's going to have to close it because Jimmy Butler, the way he went off in Game 3, I think LeBron needs to answer. And like we said, he needs to close that door. So he needs to stop relying on AD. If AD doesn't get himself going, then LeBron just needs to get it done and start dominating like we know he can. Because, look, there's nothing promised. He better take this championship now. He could get injured again next year, and things could go south. So to seize the moment, it needs to be done now. Stop waiting on AD. I know he wanted to pass the torch this year, possibly, but now he needs to go ahead and reign.
You mean after he runs people over? That's what you mean?
There you go.
I ain't never seen somebody go to the hole so much and cry about it every time he goes to the hole. What you expect? You gonna get hit. Come on, man. You supposed to be a superstar. Take that and keep it moving. Stop whining.
What's going on, Big Ed? Welcome to the show. We just talking the NBA Finals. Talking about Jimmy Buckets doing this thing in Game 3. And that I think the consensus is we're going to take it to a 5-game gentleman's sweep on these finals. What's your thoughts on it, on the Lakers Magic? Oh, we just lost Big Ed. All right, Sense, I know you're a little quiet now. We was having a little feedback, but you the Lakers fan, so come on, give us a little something.
How long I've waited for this moment. Let's just say that. I mean, in all honesty, I knew Miami was going to get one game at least, but this is like the perfect position for us to be in because the best LeBron is an angry LeBron and a pissed off LeBron. And so LeBron is going to respond. I think probably put up a 30-piece.
A 30-piece, that's all?
And yeah, I agree, a gentleman's sweep. Hello?
I don't hear him. He dropped off.
Okay. All right, well, we're going to keep it moving. We're going to keep it moving. What's up, brother Ed? Can you hear us this evening? Ed.
He looking like he don't hear nothing. Jamani, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you guys just fine. I think Ed can't hear.
Okay, so we're going to keep it moving while Ed works out his technical difficulties. So LeBron is on pace to end the series with a triple-double, 29, 11, and 9 currently. I think he's going to step up tonight in Game 4 at 9 p.m. and try to finish it strong. Definitely give the Lakers a win in Game 4 so they can try to get them out of there in Game 5. But if they let the Heat stick around and win Game 4, we go on 7.
I hope they do. Man, I hope they do.
Hey guys, how you doing?
What's going on, brother Ed? We can hear you loud and clear now. Good to have you. Good to have you. Did you have anything to add on the NBA Finals before we move on to the Doc Rivers announcement?
Yeah, I had told him to say something, so see if we could hear him, but he can't hear us.
Okay, let's keep it moving. We'll figure it out. Seems like StreamYard's having a couple of issues today, but we're going to keep it moving, keep the show moving. So what do y'all think about Doc Rivers signing with the Philadelphia 76ers? He was out of work all the 3 days before he signed a new multi-year contract to try to get them boys right and take them to all-stars and make them superstars and try to bring a ring back to Philly.
Well, I mean, they have a couple pieces that they can actually utilize. They still are a couple more pieces away from a championship. I mean, Doc can definitely put them in the right direction, but can he actually take them to the promised land? That's the question.
Yeah, Doc is a great coach, but I gotta agree with J3. They are a couple of pieces away from actually doing some real damage, even in the Eastern Conference. Now, with all the pieces that'll be moving during this offseason, Doc could probably land another top free agent, in that market. But of course, Doc does well going younger as well. Remember back when he had that young Boston team? Yeah, I know Big Ticket and the Truth were veterans, but look at all the young pieces that they also put around them to make them an elite and eventually a championship basketball team. So I'm certainly looking for him to have the right mix of young folks and veterans. And then, of course, I think Ben Simmons would benefit a lot from how he can coach up a point guard and kind of, help him in his tutelage along the way.
But the question is Ben Simmons and Embiid on the same page?
Mm.
And
Good
can
point.
they coexist? Because
Well, that's
I
a
think
coaching issue.
well, it is a coaching issue, but the players have to buy in too. Because I mean, you had Kobe and Shaq, and of course they did get 3 straight championships together. But it came to a tipping point where not even the great Phil Jackson could even deal with it, and so Shaq was on his way. I just don't know if they can coexist. Like I don't necessarily know the relationship, but I mean, who's going to be the lead dog? I guess nowadays there always has to be a lead dog instead of just coexisting. I don't know if it's going to work. I don't know if those two can stay on the same team. And if I had to choose, we've talked about this before, Embiid has to go.
Well, I think that Doc is going to hopefully get them to a point where they don't have to choose who's the lead dog. Remember in Boston, he sat the 3 of them down before they even started playing and agreed that they would be working as a unit. There would be no lead dog. There would be a big 3. And all of them had equal footing. And that's how that team rolled. And everybody looked out for each other. So if he can get those two to sit down and agree that it's not your team, it's our team, and you two are the catalyst to take us where we need to go.
Yeah,
that's
but
what they would do, because they can't sign anybody. I know Professor talked about signing. You've got 3 max players. And then you got the Al Horford contract that nobody's going to take. So they don't have any room to bring any real big-time free agents unless somebody wants to play on the cheap.
But don't you think the situation in Boston was a little different? Because you had KG coming in from Minnesota, who had spent years in mediocrity. You had Ray Allen. He hadn't necessarily had any success. I believe he came from Milwaukee. Correct me if I'm wrong. And then you had Pierce, who was the lone wolf, who was younger than Garnett and Jesus Shuttleworth. You had you had Pierce, who was like he had really never had any type of success except unless you count Kansas. So I just think the maturity level of the big 3 in Boston was much more further along than it is in Philadelphia. And again, I'm not personal friends with anybody on Philadelphia, so I don't know if it's just a perception or if it's but it doesn't seem like they would necessarily be able to have that same type conversation in Philly as Doc had in Boston. But hopefully, I'm wrong, because I'm a fan of Simmons, so I want to see him do well.
Well, if those conversations don't go well, then they're going to have to do some blowing up.
I feel you. Well, we will see. Again, game 4 tonight, 9 p.m. Lakers against the Miami Heat. And then we will look forward to the NBA draft. And from the draft, they'll have to determine when 2021 season will start. I'm predicting that probably won't start till probably January. All right, let's move on to the big Mohemoth, the NFL, week 4. The biggest news of the week in the league was not the games. It's not the games, but COVID. after the NFL acted like the big bad bully, that they was just moving along, nothing was going to stop their plans. COVID hit, and it shut one game down, almost shut a second one down, and now more and more players are testing positive. So it started out with the Tennessee Titans, who started out with 7 confirmed tests, which turned to 11, which turned to 15. It ended up 18 positive tests and an out-and-out outbreak during the week, which caused the postponement of the Titans-Steelers game and caused them to move that game to week 7 and move the Steelers-Ravens game to week 8, which was supposed to be their bye week. So now the Titans and the Steelers have lost their bye weeks. Then we get the bad news on Saturday, Cam.
Oh, Cam.
Test positive. So now it's like, uh-oh, are the Patriots going to be able to play? You're talking about the starting quarterback. Did he infect everybody on the offense? Then word came out that Kansas City also had a player test positive. Lucky for Kansas City, it was their backup quarterback, Jordan Tamu. So he was a practice squad guy, so he wasn't around a whole lot of people, so they can afford to miss him. But in general, what you guys think about how COVID has reared its ugly head for the NFL as we predicted all spring and summer long, and how the NFL decided to play some of the games, which, quite honestly, I'm not sure how some of these games got played, like the Minnesota game, who played the Titans the week before their outbreak.
See, I'm thinking that the issue with the Titans is that maybe that was something that happened, on their trip back home. It could have been something that happened after the football game that exposed them to what was going on. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a player. It could have been a coach. It could have been one of the personnel, because people are talking about it's quite odd that nobody on Minnesota has tested positive for COVID as of yet. So maybe that individual didn't get on the field, and when he spread it, whoever he spread it to didn't get on the field that day. But when they collectively got back together after the game, either to go home or when they came into their facilities, maybe that is where the spread happened and not necessarily from the football field. Because still today, to date, the Minnesota Vikings do not have one person that has COVID, and they just had a game. So, I mean, I'm not sure what went down. The NFL is supposed to be investigating that, to do contact tracing and all that to see what might have went awry, but that seems real fishy. I mean, as far as the games that were played this weekend, I mean, we'll see the effects of that in a few minutes, because in the next couple of days, if there are other players from these teams that have contracted COVID, then we'll get those positive tests. But right now, it's a wait and see. If nothing else comes out this week, then the NFL going to keep it rolling because they want to make that money.
Yeah, and to your point, they think that the source of the Titans breakout was one of the linebacker coaches who supposedly had contact with someone that he found out was positive and didn't quickly notify team personnel that he was in contact with somebody who was positive.
We all know it was just a matter of time that this was actually going to happen, because think about it. These teams are not quarantined. They're not in a bubble, so they're going home. Then they're going back to the field. Then they're going to another field. Then they're going to another field. They're getting on transportation. It was just bound to happen. So, again, no one should be surprised.
I have 2 issues with this. I'll address the first issue. The first issue I have with this is that the NFL, the most powerful, the most wealthy league in North America, again, if not the world, they had the longest amount of time to come up with a plan to play within this virus, this pandemic, and yet they've fumbled the football, so to speak. They fumbled it and dropped the ball because, like you guys have already alluded to, this is just the start. And that brings me to the most important thing that I have, is that the competitive balance of the league is at stake. Because if the format is wins and losses and not percentages, you're going to have an issue. Number one issue is now you have the Steelers, for example, who have been made to change their bye week from week 8 to this past week. And now you have a team that has to go 13 straight weeks without a bye. Okay, so that's just one thing. You look at the game last night. You have Cam Newton, who was unable to play. And if you tell me that didn't change the competitive balance of that game, when you've seen the results of the two hapless quarterbacks on the Patriots roster that came in and tried to do the job, they single-handedly, between 4 of their hands, lost the football game. And I won't believe any difference. I won't believe any different. So what you have is, again, you have competitive balance issues and the fairness of, in a sport that's usually built on attrition, because usually the most healthy team at the end of the year, even if it's not the most talented team, usually wins. And you can look down to the Super Bowls of years gone by. Again, whoever's healthy at the end or close to being healthy, most close to being healthy at the end, usually wins. And now, again, it's just going to be a mess. And now and originally when they announced this schedule, they came out with and said, well, we have built-in flexibility within the schedule to adjust on the fly. Well, how is that? Because if that means the Steelers and the Titans, they're already down 1, meaning that how much more flexibility can you eke out? Can you sketch out or carve out of a schedule that's only had 1 bye week? That only was built in, 1 bye week built in. So I'm almost done with the NFL. Almost done with the NFL.
They have the ability to extend this season all the way up to March.
So
if multiple teams have this issue, they can push this season and extend the season. If one team has the issue, like the Titans, and it affects one other team, like the Steelers, they just short.
Yeah,
but so you're punishing a team. I'm sorry, J3, but you're punishing a team, Pittsburgh, who did everything right, has had no positive test to date. But you're kind of, it's not fair. I mean, it's not, and I'm not saying life is fair, but it's not fair. Because everyone's not playing by the same rules now.
I don't agree with you, Marcus. I truly believe even if Cam was playing last night, the outcome would have been the same. Because you got to look at the defense. The defense gave up way too many points. They did not stop Patrick Mahomes. Therefore, he was able to run the ball, throw the ball, score touchdowns. Defense didn't do anything. So even if Cam was out there on the field, and hey, you're looking a little confused.
I saw the same game. Did you see the same game as I saw last night?
In the first half.
Yeah.
I didn't think Patrick Mahomes was that impressive last night.
Especially in the first half.
He didn't have to be. He just had the ball off and let him run.
Okay, well, I don't agree with that.
I would have thrown 3 interceptions.
I didn't say he would.
And that changes the game. But you got your right to your opinion.
But again, the defense didn't stop him.
When it counted.
They ran off the Kansas City Chiefs that's been scoring 30-something to 40-something points to 26.
Who won the game?
Doesn't matter who won the game. They couldn't score. They couldn't move the ball.
Okay.
We can agree to disagree. That's all part of this talk show. To agree to disagree. But what's interesting coming out of all this COVID stuff was the fact that the NFL is going to crack down hard on teams from now on. They released some new updated protocols, re-emphasized the existing protocols, and have told teams that for any team that doesn't already have a surveillance system installed in their facility, that they will be installing a surveillance system in their facility so they can monitor to see who is following protocol and who isn't. And if they're caught not following protocol, they can be fined, dock the game, forfeit a game, or even draft picks. And for the head coaches and coaches who've been on the sideline without their mask, the fines start at $100,000 for the coaches and $250,000 for the team, and they will be on an escalating scale. And for players, if they're caught outside of the team facility gathering in groups, they will be fined. And that was a direct result of what happened with the Las Vegas Raiders, where 10 players showed up to a teammate, the tight end Darren Waller's charity event to help raise money. They actually raised $350,000 for the charity to help adolescent drug relief. They were fined a total of $165,000 because they were seen taking pictures with the public without masks. So the NFL ain't playing with this COVID stuff. You can mess around if you want to. You're going to lose money, and you possibly might lose a game or draft picks.
I believe it when I see it.
They've already started finding people.
I just said I believe it when I see it.
I hear you. The other news before we actually get on to the games is, who thought that Bill O'Brien would be the first one to fall this year?
Wow.
Yeah, I thought he'd be the second. I thought Dan Quinn would have been the first.
Dude from the Falcons still got a job. Doesn't even make any sense.
Yeah, I thought he was going to get fired today.
Well, really, it was a three-ring. It was a three-horse race. It was Quinn, Quinn down in Atlanta, Gase up in New York, the New York Football Jets,
yeah,
and O'Brien down in Texas. And I think that might have been the shock. I guess I was shocked only because can you fire yourself? Because basically it took ownership because usually the GM does the firing, but he's the GM and the coach. So in that respect, I am shocked.
Jerry Jones should fire himself.
But if you look at this, but if you look at the future, like the outlook as far as the Texans are concerned, it's bleak because they have zero draft capital, they have bad contracts out the wazoo, and they really don't have any young talent besides Deshaun Watson. I guess Laramie Tunsil is considered a talent, but outside of those two, I don't know if it's really that appealing as far as that job is concerned. So a change had to come. I'm just surprised it came this soon.
I think his nail in the coffin was the post-game interview by Mr. Houston Texans, J.J. Watt, when he came to the podium and said, and I quote, "Something has to change, and it needs to change now because we can't continue the way we are now. I don't know what it is, but something's got to change. It's got to change right now." When J.J. Watt, who has a direct line with the ownership after all he's done for the Houston area and for that team, I think that was the nail in the coffin. It's like, okay.
Somebody said it was Deshaun Watson.
That would be a problem.
Only 0-4.
You know what I'm concerned with? The most valuable asset Houston has, Deshaun Watson. I hope he doesn't end up like Carr did. Now, he's had more success to date as Carr had when he was down in Houston, but he's getting hit at a rate higher this year than the time 2 years ago when I believe he set like a record or was close to a record for being sacked and ended up on and this was after a year he came back from ACL injury. So I believe that you have to protect your best asset, and he was in charge. That was his main job, is to protect Deshaun Watson and win some games. And he was winning decent, decent amount of games, but you trade probably the best one or two, even at the worst third best receiver in the league, and you just diminish and take the rug right out of the feet of Watson as far as his go-to guy. So it's not looking good in Houston. There's rumors that Bieniemy, the offensive coordinator from Kansas City, is high on their desire list for the next head coach. But I don't even know if I want to see him go to a bad situation like that.
And if he get an opportunity, he has to take it.
I think if that organization wants to move forward the right way, the first thing they got to do is hire a real GM and let a GM hire the coach.
Right.
Because the only time it works to hire the coach and then bring in a GM recently has been San Francisco, and they came in together. They said they were going to hire the coach, and then the coach told them what GM he wanted to work with. And I don't think Bieniemy is going to get that kind of leeway to do that. I would also, yes.
Is that what happened in Washington? San Francisco. What did the Washington football team? Is Rivera the GM as well as the coach? Because I know he came first.
De facto, he's the de facto GM. Even though they technically have a person in that position, he really wields all the power right now.
Okay.
Yeah, he has final say on all direct football decisions.
So stay tuned on that one.
Yeah. Don't look out for the OC from down in Tampa Bay. With what they're doing this year, you might see the DC homeboy get a look.
Leftwich.
Yeah, Leftwich, absolutely.
Leftwich.
He's been doing this thing with the Cardinals and now down in Tampa. And if Brady continues to do well and he can show that he can merge a system from Brady's system and the system they're working and continue to be successful, that might be a good look. And I think that Tampa's offense is more conducive to Watson's more than Kansas City, even though I think Bieniemy is good enough to do whatever he needs to do. But that's just my thoughts. All right, let's just talk about some games real quick.
He could sneak another playbook to his quarterback, that's for sure.
Hey, you got to do what you got to do. It's all about
that's that DC in him.
So we had the Chiefs beat the Cam Newton-less Patriots. The Patriots, because of the Cam virus positive, couldn't fly in until Monday. They were only in Kansas City for a few hours before they had to get on the field and play. So that was going to be ill. I don't think there was nothing really big to talk about with this. KC stays 4-0.
Not surprised.
As J3 said, how in the hell does Dan Quinn still have a job?
He must have stock in that daggone team. Something.
Packers were without their two starting wide receivers and let Aaron Rodgers, that bad man, still throw 4 passing TDs without his 2 starting wide receivers. How they do that, man?
Well, first of all, like I keep telling you, Atlanta's some trash. Plain and simple. I don't understand how he still got a job. I really don't.
I have a theory.
Oh, talk to me.
The theory behind Atlanta Dan Quinn still having a job is Matt Ryan's age. Matt Ryan, I'm guessing, is around 35, maybe 36-ish, because he came in the league with the same year Joe Flacco came in the league. And this draft, you're going to start seeing the people especially teams that are horrible, you're going to start seeing some strange things happen. And why? Because according to the experts, not me, but according to the experts, they have a prospect in Clemson, South Carolina, that is probably the most clean prospect since Andrew Luck entered the league when he did. And if not that, you have the kid from Ohio State, Justin Fields. So what I'm saying is that I don't believe there's really no advantageous. There's nothing that Atlanta can really gain by firing Quinn now, because anybody they bring in right now is he's just a clipboard holder. So what's the incentive to win? You're not going to win the Super Bowl. So there's really there's no incentive to be better at this point. You're already 0-4. And so I just think that let them lose. I mean, the more you lose, the closer, the more chance you have of having Georgia, by the way, a Georgia kid taking snaps within a year or two. So I don't think there's going to be much incentive for them to win. It's over.
They've been like this for the last 3 years.
Well, yeah. I mean, he built up some equity, even though he had a tragic loss, a horrible loss in the Super Bowl. That even though he lost in glorious fashion, he did build up some equity by getting there. I know he lost, but he did build up some equity, which would gain you. Even a loss in the Super Bowl will gain you 2 or 3 years. I would believe.
You blow a 27-point lead.
I know. I mean, I know, but he was there.
Well, to me, you kind of raised the point. It's time to start thinking about what the next quarterback would look like anyway. So why continue to keep a coach whose team and locker room seem to be going south anyway? With Dan Quinn, his defense is his Achilles heel, but that's supposed to be his strong suit, meaning that the offense seems to be rolling. But if your defense can't get together, then what do you have a defensive-minded head coach for? He's obviously not calling the offensive plays. His OC gets the credit for doing that. So, like you said, I mean, you can look at it on the other side of the coin. What's the real point of actually keeping him and starting a new regime so you can start building that team the way that you need? They obviously need a new philosophy on defense in order to get that side of the ball up to par with an offense that can compete for a championship. If you're scoring 30, 40 points a game, that's what you need to win a title. But if your defense gives up that much points as well, then, of course, you're kind of losing at the games like they normally do. Now, Green Bay kind of just put it to them from beginning to end. But the last couple of weeks, Atlanta was winning by like 20 points, and then they gave it up at the end of the game. So if I don't have an offensive-minded head coach, there's no reason to keep him around.
Agreed.
All right, so moving on from that, we had Russell Wilson and the Seattle Seahawks take down the Miami Dolphins 31-23. While Russ wasn't cooking the way he was cooking the first 3 weeks, he still did his thing. But he had a little help this week from the running game, Mr. Chris Carson, who scored 2 TDs. And DK Metcalf has proven that he might be a legit number 1 receiver. I think it's his 3rd game of the season going over 100 yards. But the biggest story of this game, I think, is Fitzy had his Fitzmagic week, gave everybody a little energy. Maybe he can pull it together this year. And then he turned into Ryan Fitzpatrick and threw 2 picks in 2 consecutive weeks. So my question to you is, Miami's not going anywhere. They got the Texans' 1st and 2nd round draft picks coming up this season, just like they had this past draft. So when is it Tua time in Miami, or do they just let him sit on the bench, let Fitzy play the whole year and do the Kansas City route, maybe let him play the last game of the season, the last 2 games of the season?
2021. It's their offensive line is not conducive to letting Tua take snaps right now. And also, Tua is only 11 months removed from injury. It's not like it's even been a year. And in that type of injury that he had, and it's just not worth it. Like, you don't gain anything by letting them play. And I'm not a big proponent of letting rookies play anyway. And I know that with Burrow's having some success over in Cincinnati, the kid in San Diego, I'm sorry,
LA.
in LA, I'm sure he's having a little he's having a little success this year. But I just don't believe in playing rookie quarterbacks. It's particularly behind bad offensive line, because there's nothing to gain from it. Patrick Mahomes didn't take a snap until the last game of the season of his rookie year, and I don't see it hurting him. There's nothing to gain from it.
I'm with you. I would keep him on the bench as long as I possibly can, but I think the pressure is mounting up, especially seeing these other rookies, Justin Herbert from the Chargers, and of course the number 1 pick Burrow, who got his first victory with Cincinnati this past weekend, that people are going to say, well, they're looking good. Why can't the number 6 pick Tua look good? So, but as long as that coach doesn't cave to the pressure and ownership doesn't push it on them, I'm with you.
Don't be surprised to see Hurts pretty soon.
Oh,
Don't be surprised. Peekaboo.
Moving on to the next item. Tampa Bay come back from down 24-7 in the second quarter to beat the just talked about LA Chargers 38-31. Your boy Brady looked bad early. They had the old man trying to throw another deep sideline out. They got took back for another pick 6. His second of the season. They need to burn that play and never ask him to throw that again.
They sure do.
But after that, the Chargers looked like they were in control, had a late second quarter turnover. Tom came in, scored a touchdown, and he was off to the races. You looked up, 369 yards later, 5 TDs to 5 different receivers, and Tampa may be the cream of the NFC. What y'all think?
I think that Bruce Arians threw Jameis Winston, his former quarterback, under the bus when he said, if this was last year, we'd have lost by 20. That was the first point. And we have a little in Tampa's armor, though, as far as his offensive weapons. His tight end, O.J. Howard, ruptured his Achilles, and he's out for the year. So, that's one less weapon at his disposal. But the old man still got it. If you don't let him get hit, and he has the weapons he does down in Tampa, he can still function. He can still sling that rock a little bit. But again, Bruce Arians, that was the thing I came. Like I said, this whole season is going to come down to whether Bruce Arians can just get out the way and let nature take its course. But there was no need to throw Jameis under the bus. He's gone. He's in New Orleans. There was no reason for him to throw him under the bus.
Chargers defense is some trash.
I don't know. If Chargers defense has been rated one at the top units
I don't know how
in the league. And coming into this game, they've been shutting people down. Remember, this was the same defense that held Kansas City to what? 19 points?
Mm-hmm. And still lost.
Defense don't score points. The defense doesn't score points. or not a lot.
Well, I tried to tell Marcus that too, but he don't want to believe that. But okay.
Moving on, up north here, the Baltimore Ravens bounced back after losing to the Chiefs for a third time. Game wasn't competitive. The big question for this is, do y'all believe the local buzz that pressure's mounting for them to pull the plug on Haskins after struggling again in the first half? to start someone else at quarterback?
I'll go last. Y'all go ahead.
I don't believe that for one moment. But you guys, but we talked about this. I think we talked about this off the record, but I don't believe that for one minute. I mean, the man has, minus Terry McLaurin, who does he have that will scare a defense to throw to? I mean, his offensive line, I don't even know if Brendan Scherf back yet?
No.
He doesn't have no offensive lineman of note. The man he's doing the best he can. And actually his game, if you look at his final stats, he really didn't have that bad a game. I mean, I don't think he threw for any touchdowns, but he didn't really have that bad a game. I just think they're being unfair. I mean, but this goes back to my point where you put these young quarterbacks in before they're ready, and when they struggle, you want to throw them in the trash and search for the next one. But maybe he's not trash. Maybe your offensive coordinator is trash. Maybe your head coach is trash. Maybe his supporting players are trash. You know what I'm saying? You got to give the man a chance to you got to put him in the best position to win. And I don't believe Washington did that last year, and I don't think they're doing it this year.
It's plain and simple. Their offensive line is trash, and until he gets a stronger line, he's only going to be successful for so long. I mean, and he ain't even really successful right now. He's just surviving, and until you build up that line, he's gonna continue to struggle.
Mm-hmm.
I told you guys that in this city, it is tough for a black quarterback to be able to stay the incumbent without all these grumblings and rumors happening. And we know that it's not fair. We know that they never get the type of offensive line that they'll put behind or in front of somebody else. And that's why Dwayne is really going to have to work through these challenges and really study his film, get his footwork together. I don't like the play calling. They're doing a lot of dinking and dunking, a lot of screening, and teams are doing their homework on this offense. There's not so much you're going to get with little screens. When he did go down the middle to Logan Thomas, those were great throws. He hit McLaurin on a couple of crossing routes, but you guys always knew that they were going to focus on McLaurin the whole game. This is what we talked about. So your running backs needed to have some better plays. We knew they weren't going to run on the Ravens. Let's just be real on that. But some plays to kind of get those shifty running backs into space would have did the offense some good. But we already said it. The offensive line is some trash because they don't have any players of substance. Think about it. That left side of the line that we had that played last year that played well in Trent's absence with Donald Penn and with the guy that we had from the Giants that shifted the guard, but Miami paid him money, so he left. That messed up the left side. Sheriff was hurt last year. He's hurt again this year, and he has a nerve to want some big payday. We're going to send him packing, and Morgan Moses is just a big body. So that line just can't protect Dwayne. He has no timing. And when we talk about quarterbacks like Brady and Rodgers who do things on timing routes, how can he be accurate and get the ball in there if he doesn't have time to do it? So, yeah, I believe the rumblings are there, but I think Dwayne going to have to toughen up, get through it, because Kyle Allen is a bum. Let's face it. He get out there, he going to end up stinking, and then Ron going to have some more doo-doo on his face. So you might as well stick with Haskins for the long term.
Haskins is going to have to figure out how to start the game off better. Because in the second half, he seems to get into a more of a rhythm, but he's got to figure out how to start the game off better, because in every game, he's missed some fairly average NFL throws badly, but he gets warmed up and gets the pickup. So that's my only issue. My only other concern
just real quick. Maybe he needs to improvise a little bit more. Maybe he should go off script to show his athleticism, the fact that he can buy his own time, because the scheme that they're running isn't doing that for him.
I hear you. My other concern is Coach Rivera. We know he's going through a hard time with his cancer treatment. I think somebody in ownership needs to talk to Coach and
in ownership
tell Coach that he needs to take a week off finish his treatment regime. Because I don't know if y'all noticed, at least 3 times during the game while play was being played, he had to go sit on a bench.
Mhm.
He had to be helped to the locker room at halftime.
Yeah.
And we have to remember, he's a football player, so he's trying to show his guys, you know, how to be strong and work through things. This is something not to be played with, especially during this pandemic, because you know that his immune system is lowered, taking this chemotherapy and stuff. So I think they need to sit him down. Last game we'll talk about this week. How about them Cowboys?
How about them Cowboys?
I love it. I love it.
That's by Jerry Jones.
The Cowboys let the Cleveland Browns rush for 307 yards.
Woo!
After their starting running back left the game early in the second quarter due to injury.
Yeah, but in fairness, Kareem Hunt is really a starting running back in the NFL. I mean, in fairness,
we're not in college anymore, Ed. This is NFL.
I know, but Kareem Hunt was an All-Pro from day one in Kansas City. But I'm not a Cowboy fan, but I'm actually glad that because out of all of this, Dak is earning money. By losing, Dak is earning money, meaning that he's on a historic pace for yards.
Yeah, like for like 6,000 yards this year.
Mm-hmm. And they should be 0-4 right now.
Hello?
We got you.
Hear you.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, you can blame Atlanta for that. They should be 0-4.
Yeah, we know.
So with that horrible defense, they made Cleveland look like a playoff team. So Dallas has got problems, and Dak ain't won. Let's just leave it at that.
They still running the same offense.
Mm-hmm.
And as I told you, I think Dak's going to get paid. It's just not going to be from the Cowboys.
Mm.
So there were a bunch of other games, and we won't waste your time with them because nothing was really big. A couple of teams got their first victories. The Eagles got their first victory. Cincinnati got their first victory. The Vikings got their first victory. Buffalo still looks strong. Got to give Buffalo their props for staying on.
My quarterback.
Look like Buffalo's the cream of the AFC East. So we got a couple of legitimate bye weeks coming week 5, Detroit Lions and Green Bay Packers, and we'll still have to keep an eye out for the Tennessee Titans to see if they will allow them to play this week as well. And some good week 5 matchups Thursday night. You got the Bucks at the Bears. Then you got the Buffalo Bills playing the hopefully undefeated Titans. You got Raiders and Chiefs, Colts and Browns, and then the Bengals at the Ravens. We get to see number 1 Joe Burrow take his first AFC North beating and see how it holds up. Let's move on to college football. We had Jerome, I predicted that Dak will be the next starting quarterback of the Chicago Bears in our NFL preview. Number 1 free agent signing. So let's move on to college football. Texas, we got a problem.
We sure do.
The 2 richest college football organizations, Texas A&M and the University of Texas, both paying coaches big money. Jimbo Fisher got a 10-year, $75 million contract 3 years ago. And Herman got a 6-year, $36 to $40 million contract. And unfortunately, both teams can't even win their
They
they can't even win their divisions in the conference.
bums.
All that money not producing.
Yeah, it's funny how they throwing all that money around.
Mm.
And what's really sad is the two previous coaches for those organizations, Kevin Sumlin and Charlie Strong, were the first black head coaches of those organizations. And they unceremoniously got shown the door for not bringing championships to the organizations. But yet, you've got these high-paid coaches now at both organizations. And if they get to 9-3 in a regular season this year because of the COVID, if they're going to probably each lose at least 2 conference games, so they're not going to be in the running for the championships again.
Send them home.
Is it hit? Is it hit?
Send them home.
On the actual gridiron, Georgia destroyed Auburn, proving that the other school at Alabama is still not ready for prime time in the SEC. The big boys in Alabama, the University of, put a beat down on the aforementioned Texas A&M.
Mm-hmm.
Clemson basically showed up on it in their warm-ups and beat down University of Virginia.
Yeah,
Made
crush
that
them.
quick and toasty.
Crush them.
The aforementioned Texas Longhorns lost to smaller, less noted Texas Christian University, TCU, for the first time in a couple of years, bringing more pleasure and more pain to Mr. Herman and making his seat real hot. But the biggest upset of the week was good old Oklahoma, the supposed pride of the Big 12, Iowa State. Iowa State hadn't beat Oklahoma in 60 years.
That's crazy.
We also got to look forward to this weekend. Got a couple of big games going on. There is the Red River rivalry with Texas against Oklahoma. It's the early game. It's your little game. You can get your Saturday going.
Ain't nobody gonna care about that.
Big time games. Well, we have the U, which is back behind QB transfer Derek King, going to visit Death Valley to take on University of South Carolina.
Maybe he'll finally get some love in the Heisman race this weekend.
Hey, if he even stays close and puts up numbers that either equal or outdo Trevor Lawrence,
Right.
they're going to have to give him some props because Miami, we know Miami's been down for a decade now, and he's made them relevant in the top 25.
Right.
Then we got to see if your boy Lane Kiffin can be the first to come back and beat their former boss, Nick Saban.
Not happening.
I don't see that happening.
Nope. Not happening.
It'll get
Unless they get COVID.
really.
No, not at all.
Unless they get COVID. It ain't happening. Nick is like 19-0 or 20-0 against all his former coaches. He ain't letting Lane beat him.
They looking too good there, buddy.
What you think, Ed? You think Lane got a shot?
Not in this generation.
Not against Saban.
But I'm one of the few people that like Lane. Like I don't like how he left well, shoot, how he left Alabama, how he left Tennessee, how he left USC. Like, I don't like how he rolls out of town.
You heard
But
how Davis said about him.
But I like the theater that he provides. I like the entertainment. He's like a WWE wrestler. I just can't take my eyes off of him. But and I think he actually did. He actually, if you trace the current offense that Alabama runs, I think you can have it has its roots. You can trace it back to when Lane was there. He didn't have the horses, so to speak, that as far as the amount of receivers and the quarterback to run it. But I think that if you look back, you could see elements of Lane's offense now at Alabama and what he would have hoped to do. But yeah, I like Lane being in the SEC. I'm glad he's in Mississippi, right across the state line. Yeah, from Alabama, I'm glad, but he's not going to beat Nick Saban this generation until Nick.
Hey, Ed, any credit to Sarkisian?
Me and Sarkisian have an interesting relationship.
Okay.
Full disclosure, I'm an Alabama fan, but I'm not 100% sold on Sarkisian just yet. I'm actually nervous about. He's actually probably the highest paid. I think he might be the highest paid offensive coordinator in college football. He makes $2.5 million a year. Yeah. And but some of his, I still question some of his calls at times.
I do too.
I'm not a big fan of Sarkisian, and I'm scared to death of his personal life affecting his on-field work.
You got Mac Jones looking good though.
Does he have him looking good, or does Mac have himself looking good?
Might be a combination.
Yeah. And Mac has had first round draft. He sent two for he got four. He's worked with 4 first round draft picks guaranteed. And the new kid on the block, Mitchie, coming up, he might be the next in line to be a first round draft choice. So Mac has, I mean, come on now. He's Alabama.
I hear you. Lastly, Tennessee takes on Georgia between the hedges. Tennessee looks like they're turning the corner, but I'm not sure if they're going to be ready for Georgia. Mm-hmm. And we'd like to give a shout out and hope for a quick, speedy recovery to Arizona State head coach Kevin Sumlin. We spoke about him early, former coach of Texas A&M, now the head coach of Arizona State. And the legend of Florida State, Bobby Bowden, who both recently tested positive for COVID. Wish them both a speedy recovery, especially Bobby, because he's in that age range where it could be rough for him. Major League Baseball playoffs have started. Professor, I know you did a little research on this. Can you give us a brief synopsis on what's going on in the Major League Baseball races real quick? You don't mind?
Sure, I sure can. So, of course, everybody knows that the Major League Baseball postseason is underway. And we're going to start out with those defiant and dishonest, most dishonest and defiant franchise in the league, the Houston Astros. They did win again today. I believe it was by the score of 9-5. They really are beating their chest right now. Their boisterous and outspoken leader, Carlos Correa, is really talking a lot of smack about, the team. You talk about a personality of a heel in a wrestling show. That's him right there doing the Hulk Hogan thing to people as he's hitting home runs. Like, what you say there? We did what? So he's really stoking the fire because the Oakland A's are one of those teams that they felt that they got cheated out of the last couple of years when they went up against the Astros. So now that they're handling them 2-0 now, last night they beat them 10-5, it's really starting to show that the A's are kind of getting outclassed here when they really had a chance to really put a dagger in the Houston Astros. And it's not just Correa. You got George Springer, Alex Bregman, and Jose Altuve that are also tuning up as well. So it's not looking real good for the Oakland A's because they're now down 2-0 against the quote-unquote champs of that division. So now let's go to the Bronx Bombers. They definitely lived up to their namesake when they belted several home runs. They're now In the last 3 games, they have broken a record, Major League Baseball postseason record for hitting 11 home runs in 3 straight games. So that total has broken the previous record of 10, I believe. Last night, my man Stanton hit a grand slam in the 9th to solidify that victory against the Rays for the Yankees, score of 9-3. And they actually play tonight, I believe, at the top of the 9 o'clock hour. So the Astros would try to do their thing, but the Yankees are doing their thing as well, because what I want to see, and probably what the rest of the baseball world wants to see, is that rematch between the Yankees and Astros in the ALCS. So look forward to the Yankees to continue their bombing ways, just cracking them home runs. I'm looking for Luke Voit to really step up to the plate tonight and do his thing. So definitely we will see if Tampa Bay actually has it in them to compete with the Bronx Bombers in the postseason. Then to me, the most exciting matchup in this series is the Padres against the Dodgers. So we know that they're in the same state. There's some bad blood that's going on between them. You got the showboating ability of Fernando Tatis Jr. and, of course, our former local owned Manny Machado. They are doing big things out there down in Southern California. So they're looking to bring their cockiness and their hitting ways against the Dodgers, who play game 1 tonight as well. So we expect those fireworks to commence tonight, because we need to see that former Boston Mookie Betts come out and really kind of do his thing. Everybody's putting the headlines on Clayton Kershaw and what he'll be able to do. He's the one that has the most pressure, because he has to get that quote unquote postseason monkey off of his back, because he's been dominant during regular seasons year in and year out. But when it gets to the postseason, he kind of doesn't deliver. So this is a part of his legacy to really put things together for his boys and try to get a World Series this year. So look for that to be a really good series. What's interesting here is that in the last 5 games, the Dodgers are 5-0. But then you look at the Padres, their last 5 games, they're 4-1. So you're going to have an old-fashioned slugfest here. So look out for that one. I'm mostly excited about that one. And then, of course, in game 1, the Florida Marlins did get down this afternoon by the Atlanta team by a score of 9-5. And I correct myself, that was the 9-5 score. The Astros beat the Athletics 5-2 this afternoon. So Atlanta is really trying to put together a winning team. It's been, I think, since 1992 or 91 before they actually won a World Series. So they're really trying to put their hat in the ring to try to really push this thing going forward. So stay tuned on whether they actually can do that. I used to live in Atlanta, so that's a great baseball town, and they really need to try to put something together to bring that home. I like what Derek Jeter did with this Florida Marlins team, because they were dead in the water at the beginning of the season, and nobody actually gave them a chance to make the postseason, because Jeter was trading away all of their assets. The team was getting younger. Players were getting hurt. I mean, even their star center fielder, Starling Marte, is hurt and didn't make the postseason roster. So that is having an effect on these games as well. But if they can stay close with Atlanta throughout the rest of the series, they might be able to make it a series. But if not, then they'll probably get swept. But still got to give love to Derek Jeter for putting together this team and getting them ready to go. So stay tuned for more Major League Baseball. It's just heating up. So that's the good one there. Turn it back over to you, Big Reg. Is he there? Oh, can't hear you. Hey, right. You hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I think they went out. I'm going to go ahead with the post takes then, fellas.
Okay, there we go.
All right. So let's get ready for the post takes. All right, we're going to do this in 10 down to 1 fashion, kind of like a little countdown. So number 10, and I just spoke of them, the Bronx Bombers will set another home run record in these here playoffs in this postseason. Those bats will stay hot all the way to the World Series. You heard it here first. Number 9, umpire, who is suing Major League Baseball for discrimination, has been assigned to the NLDS Dodgers versus Padres. Who knew that Major League Baseball had a color problem? While the case is pending in court since 2017, Hernandez will work and make that paycheck. Stay very tuned on this one. The Latin American Amateur Championship Golf Tournament has been canceled, y'all, for January 2021 because of pandemic precautions and concerns. The reason this is huge is because it carries an automatic bid for the amateur winner to the Masters and the Open. So see if golf will try to make that up at some point, because this is actually a key tournament to actually get amateurs on the professional tour. So right now it's terrible news for amateurs, but we expect for the PGA to make amends here so that an amateur can get into those great golf courses. All right, number 7, there's a strong push to make the fight of the century in UFC, which will pit John Bones Jones versus Israel Adesanya. They have been beefing on Twitter, y'all. Check this. It's getting disrespectful, too. The mother and father references take us back to old school Jonan sessions. You know how they always ended, in a fight. So the scramble is on to get them on the card before the end of this year. Yeah. So question though, yeah. Did someone forget about Dan Blachowicz? He just got forgotten about, right? Didn't he just win and he called John Jones out? But I think everybody would agree that they want to see him fight Israel Adesanya, and that would be the fight of this young century. All right, number 6. I know all other fans and pundits are chomping at the bit, but it looks like Alabama versus Clemson again for the national title. Yeah, I know Georgia, but none of the former assistants have beaten Father Nick Saban just yet. I know Florida and the U, you want some respect, but you cannot beat these powerhouses. Sorry. Ohio State, you have an outside chance, but only a miracle will get you there. It is possible, but no. Save the rhetoric or argument for any other team, pandemic or no pandemic. This is still college football, and it is just predictable from the top down. Speaking of college football, the Fighting Irish are reveling in the notion that it will take a miracle and there is a chance. Touchdown, Jesus, anyone? Sorry, fantasy football owners. Bucks tight end O.J. Howard is on IR with an Achilles injury. Tua still is on the bench despite no more magic in Miami. And sit Joe Burrow this week against the Ravens. Just trust me on that. Tune in Thursday night for the rest of our fantasy football analysts. Yeah, I like what I did there. Number 3, power rankings in the NFL can be misleading. You got Chiefs, Seahawks, Packers, Ravens, Bills. Okay, it is still early, and 3 of the top 5 could be battling to stay there all season. Do not know yet if the Super Bowl winner is actually in the top 5 right now, because you got the Steelers, Saints, Patriots, and Bucks that will have something to say late in the season. Trust me on that too. Number 2, no Bam, no Dragon, no problem. Jimmy Bucket says LBJ and Lake Show crew are in trouble. Now the real series begins tonight. We can't wait. Don't forget about Hero Ball. That young man has a lot to say about the way this series will go. And number 1, the sideshow is whether playoff Rondo is back in effect, and if AD is really that dude that LBJ can pass the torch off to. Let me help you out. Not yet. He proved that he was not ready, as LBJ will take the baton back from AD and push the Lakers on to another championship and earn another MVP. Remember, I said it. Game 3 was AD's time to shine, and he blew it. I guess LBJ will have to play another 5 years. Shaking my head. All right, those are the post takes for tonight. I turn it back over to the fellas to talk next about what caught our eye this week.
Appreciate that, Professor Jay. Well, yeah, I have to apologize to everybody that listening. I've heard that there was some feedback going on my microphone. So Jake and I are now utilizing the same microphone. Hopefully y'all can hear me loud and clearly.
We can hear you.
Fantastic. So some of the things that caught our eye over the week, the French Open has reached the quarterfinals. The King of Clay, Rafael Nadal, and Novak Djokovic are still alive and look like they're headed for a decide who's going to win the French Open. Also, tomorrow morning, for you tennis fans, Americans Daniel Collins will meet Sophia Kenin to see which of them will make their first French Open semifinal. Number 4 seeded Kenin is the highest remaining seed in the women's draw. Currently on right now, the WNBA Finals are in Game 3 tonight. The Seattle Storm lead the Las Vegas Aces 2-0 in the best-of-5 series. Storm's being led by Breonna Stewart and future Hall of Famer Sue Bird, both former national championship winning UConn Huskies and number 1 draft picks 14 years apart. It looks like the Storm on the brink of winning their 4th championship and 2nd as teammates. What's been great about this series is Stewart in Game 1 dropped 37-15, 4 blocks and 2 assists, and Bird recorded a WNBA Finals record 16 assists, and they beat the first 2 games both by 13 points. So by tonight, we may have a WNBA champion, or the Las Vegas Aces behind MVP Asia Wilson and Angel McCarty. We'll see if they can force a Game 4. Hats off to old Sergio Garcia, got his first PGA Tour victory since 2017. For you race car fans and F1 fans, Lewis Hamilton looks to tie the F1 all-time mark again this Sunday. He's at the Eiffel Grand Prix in Germany, and Denny Hamlin got a playoff win at Talladega Superspeedway, taking the lead in the NASCAR Cup Championships playoff push. Last but not least, in a possible fight of the year, for you boxing fans, Jose Cepeda beat Ivan Barancic in a 5-round slugfest, which included 8 knockdowns, 4 each, resulting in a 5th round knockout by Cepeda, where he caught Barancic with a left hook that had him knocked out cold for over 2 minutes. So if you got access to ESPN Plus, you can look that up. It's in the archives, but what a great fight. And Tank Davis and Leo Santa Cruz have moved their title fight to Halloween, October 31st. All right, fellas, it's time for the final post of the evening. What you got for me, J3?
So, real quick, what I want to say is that for all of y'all fans who want to sit up here and compare LeBron James to Michael Jordan, just stop. Because what he did the other night was disgraceful. As a player, you're supposed to stand there and be on the court until the timer goes 0-0-0. Him walking off the court showed just how immature he still is as a player. And that's all I got to say about it.
All right, Ed, what you got for me?
J3 is my dog, man. You my dog. I'm just leaving that alone. Oh, nothing. I'm just looking forward to another week of drama. Hopefully, we don't have no COVID outbreaks. I get to sit back and watch the Giants take on the Dallas Cowboys this week for supremacy, if that's what you call it in the NFC East. Oh yeah, they're not in first place. Philly is. I'm sorry. I'm just looking forward to college football. That's my sport of choice this weekend, and trying to remain safe, as I hope all of you are. So that's it.
Cool. Professor J, you got anything for us today?
Yeah, actually, Joe snatched it right out of my jaws, because when I watched that mess that Isaiah Thomas said earlier, I really wanted to go down to that studio and let Isaiah Thomas know something. Yeah, there's no excuse for that. Don't talk about what generation you came from or nothing like that. Because even though Isaiah is older than me, I was still within that generation watching them during those playoffs. And I played sports, and none of us were taught to act in that manner when you're leaving the court after a game. So there's no excuse for it. Don't try to justify why you couldn't apologize. Okay, you looked up the Magic and Bird. What? You wanted to beat them. You sitting there trying to make an excuse for something that you should have owned and apologized all these years later. So young people, don't follow that example and don't make excuses when the fault lies right in your laps. So let there be a lesson to everybody. If you want forgiveness, you got to first be willing to apologize. God bless you.
I hear you, Professor. I hear you, Professor. I would just like to tell everybody, we started the NFL talking about COVID. For all our friends, family, fans, and people who just check us out from time to time, please do us a favor, and more importantly, do yourself a favor. COVID is real. COVID is on the upsurge again in this country. Last thing I saw, 27 states of the 50 were increasing in COVID activity. Please, please, be safe. I know it's been a long time and people are getting tired, but protect yourself, protect your family, wear your masks, social distance, and please stay out of crowds. Because as we've seen on the national stage and in the sports stage, this COVID's for real, and anybody can get it. So the best thing you can do is stay away, stay distant. I know it's lonely to some people, but it's better to be lonely than to be sick or possibly not be here at all. We'd like to thank you all for tuning in and listening. We appreciate your time and opportunity to share our positional sports with you. Please tune in every Tuesday at 7 p.m. for our live show. You can also download this show and our previous shows on Facebook and our YouTube page. It's Positional Sports Talk Show. If you check out any of our pages, do us a favor and like and subscribe to those pages. It will greatly help us. You can also follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Positional Sports. We greatly appreciate if you can pass along the information to your friends, family, and social media network. Thank you again. Have a wonderful week. Please stay safe. And by all means, we appreciate you. This has been Positional Sports Talk Show. Peace.
God bless you.